Shalom, brothers and sisters from wherever you're watching us from. Welcome to our new episode. Last time we were able to look at chapter 36 of Genesis, and it was basically the lineage of Esau and his three beautiful wives. And we were able to see actually how they settled. We were able to see the chiefs and the kings actually whom came out of Edom, that is from Esau. Now, today we look at chapter 37 of the same book, and the Bible records, my Bible has the heading Joseph's Dreams. The Bible says, Jacob lived in the land where his father had stayed, and the land of Canaan. This is the account of Jacob's family line. Joseph, a young man of 17, was tending the flock with his brothers, the son of Bilhah, the sons of Zephyr, his father's wives, and he brought their father a bad report about them. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made an Aaronite robber to him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word of him. Verse 5 records, Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all more. And he said to them, listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of corns out of the field, when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves are gathered around mine and bowed down to it. His brothers said to him, do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all more because of his dream and what he had said. Verse 9 records, then he had another dream, and he told it to his brother. Listen, I had another dream, and this time the sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing down to me. When he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, what is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you? His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Verse 12 records, now his brothers had gone to graze their father's flock near Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, as you know, your brothers are grazing the flock in Shechem. Come, I'm going to send you to them. Very well, he replied. So he said to him, go see if all is well with your brothers and with the flock, and bring word back to me. Then he sent him off from the valley of Hebron. When Joseph arrived at Shechem, a man found him wandering around in the field and asked him, what are you looking for? He replied, I am looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are grazing their flock? They have moved on from here. The man answered, I heard them say, let's go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them near Dothan. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. Here comes the dreamer, they said to each other. Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of the cisterns, and say that a furious animal devoured him. Then we will see what comes of his dreams. When Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him from their hands. Let us not take his life, he said. Don't shed any blood. Throw him into a cistern here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him. Reuben said to rescue him from them and take him back to his father. So When Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of robe and the ornate robe he was wearing, and they took him and threw him into the cistern. The cistern was empty; there was no water in it, and they sat down to eat their meal. They looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. Their camels were loading with spices, balm, and myrrh, and they were on their way to take down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, What will we gain if we kill our brother and cover his blood? Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our flesh and blood. His brothers agreed. So when the Midianite merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph out of the pit, out of the cistern, and sold him for 20 shekels of silver and to the Ishmaelites, who took him to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the cistern and saw Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes. He went back to his brothers and said, Boys, the boy isn't there. Where can I turn now? Then they got Joseph's robe and slaughtered a goat and dipped in the robe of the blood. In the blood, they took the ornate robe back to the father and said, We found this. Examine it whether it is your son's robe. He recognized it and said, It is my son's robe. Some furious animal has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces. Then Jacob tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and mourned for his son many days. All his sons and daughters came to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. No, he said, I will continue to mourn until I join my father, until I join my son in the grave. So his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites sold Joseph in Egypt to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officials, in the captain of the guard. Now, brothers and sisters, this is a very beautiful chapter. One, we are introduced to this young man called Joseph. The Bible records that he was loved by his father because, of course, he was a child who was born in his old age. And also remember, Joseph was born by Rachel, and Rachel was the most loved wife to Joseph. And this was his firstborn, or her firstborn, because he had not gotten any other child. He actually, if you can remember, he gave his servants, and he gave her servants to the husband, that is Joseph, to sleep with them for her to have some children. But of course, before she died, she gave birth to this young man called Joseph, and also another young man called Benjamin. Now, this chapter focuses on this young man, or this young boy called Joseph. The Bible introduces him as he is 17 years old, and it talks of him actually being loved by the father, into such a point that he decided to make a robe for him, just to differentiate him from his brothers. And Joseph is a dreamer. He has his dreams, and of course he has the first dream, tells to his brothers, this is what is happening. And the dream actually was showing that they will bow to him at some point. But the brothers did not like it, because remember, this guy is 11th born, actually 12th born. And there's no way that the elder brothers would have accepted to bow down to him. And actually he had a second dream. Actually he saw moon and the sun and the 11 stars, and they all bowed to him. And this time around, he not only told this dream to his brothers, he also told the dream to his father. And see actually in verse 10 what the father does. He rebukes him and tells him, wait, what are you trying? Do you mean that my mother and your mother and myself and your brothers will bow down at any point for you? And this actually, by this, of course, the Bible records that his father kept the matter in his mind, which means he knew that there was some bit of truth actually in these dreams. Because remember, Jacob had walked with God and he knew that God used to speak to people. Now, one day these guys are in the field, of course, taking care of the flock, and the father decides to send Joseph to them to see how they're doing. He goes to them and he finds them. But actually when they see him, they say, the dreamer has come. So bring him, let us kill him actually, and let's see what will come out of his dreams. And the Bible records actually Reuben said, no, let's not do that. This is our own brother. Let us actually instead throw him in a pit and leave him there, because we do not need to shed any blood. The Bible records that Reuben was doing this to rescue his own brother. But actually, they buy that idea in the meantime and throw him in that pit. But actually, Judah sees these Ishmaelites who are coming and were going to Egypt for trade. And he convinces his brothers and says, let us sell him to this guy, that we may not kill him, that his blood will not be on us, for he is our own flesh and our own blood. And they agreed. And they sold him. The Bible records that they sold him for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites. And they go. And actually, the Bible records Reuben came. I think when they were selling him, Reuben is not here. And he comes to the pit and looks and he finds, hey, this guy is not there. And he decides, He asks, so where has this young man gone? Of course, I think they told him of the story, and they agreed that they'll take his robe, which they had already stripped him, and kill an animal, and of course put some blood in it and take it to their father. And that is exactly what they did. And when they took this to their father actually mourned. The Bible records that he tore his clothes and put sackcloth and mourned for his son many days. And actually, because this was the favorite son to this old man, and the Bible says he even refused to be comforted, and he says, I will continue to mourn until I join my son in the grave. So his father wept for him. In the meantime, the Midianites, of course, sold him to Potiphar, and Potiphar was an official of the captain of the guards. Brothers and sisters, just a few thoughts out of this beautiful chapter. When you look at Joseph is very innocent. He's just trying to express his mind to his brothers. Actually, as a matter of fact, I think as a young boy he thought, it's just a dream. Nothing will happen like this. And look at what happens. His dreams bring him a lot of troubles, that his brothers continue hating him the more. They hate him into such a point they get the thought of killing him. And actually, they are killing him because of a dream. And let me tell you something about dreams. Dreams are very good. Dreams are things actually God uses at times to communicate to us about our futures. But I think, this is my thinking, it is not good actually to overshare them. Sometimes it is good to keep them for ourselves, because you never know. These dreams might bring you to trouble. Look at the troubles actually that this young man is getting into. It is the trouble actually his brothers are going to extent of thinking of killing him. They're not even ashamed when they're throwing him into that pit. They were not ashamed because they hated him because of that dream. And these dreams actually can do this to us. Some of us, we have seen people who actually talk of their dreams and people go against them and they kill them. Dreams are very important. Dreams, God uses them to communicate to us. But brothers and sisters, may I actually beseech you in the name of the Lord that you might keep them for yourselves. Sometimes you might tell them to people and they will not be happy about you. And look, of course, this precedes into Joseph being sold, of course, into Potiphar's house. This, of course, when we look at it in the later years, in the later chapters, we will notice that this was a plan of God. But looking at it from where we are standing, these dreams were bringing sorrows to Jacob and Joseph. The chapter actually ends by this old man mourning his son and saying, you know, I will not be comforted. I will mourn until I go to grave with my son. And this is actually what happens for so many years, because Jacob does not see Joseph for a very long time, and he mourns his son actually until he sees him again. My prayer to you, brothers and sisters, is as much as we are dreaming, may God give us the wisdom actually to be able to know who are the right people to share our dreams with. Because you might be sharing your dreams with people who are not going to be happy about you. They might do anything for you. They might even take you to extremes of actually sending you even into the grave if you're not actually careful. But of course, it is God. These dreams come from God, and it is Him who protects us. I'm not saying that we need to protect ourselves, but I'm trying to say sometimes it is also wise to shut your mouth and wait for God to do His thing the way He needs to do it. I don't know what are your thoughts. Of course, let us know in the comment section. Make sure, of course, you let us know anything that you have left or any thought that you have about this beautiful chapter. I hope to see you next week, same place, same time. Shalom.